Today's episode, I asked the question, is it safe to even go to the ballpark anymore, as Ronald Acuña's all-time history was almost averted due to some nonsense, and how a lady was able to sneak in a gun, apparently in the fat of her belly, out there in Chicago. Fantasy football right around the corner here. You should be drafting soon. I'll give you some basic tips that you need to know. And the most important part, what's the funniest team name that you can come up with? I got some good tips for you there. And also, finally, a video that's from the past, but just so you know, Sean Connery apparently hates golfing with women so much that he'd slap his own mama and tell Barbara Walters that was a great idea. Got to check it out. Stay tuned. All right, what's up, everyone? Another edition of Tricky Guy Sports. It's your host, Brent Bilski, a.k.a. Double B. What is going on? We have football season starting next week. Got to talk some fantasy football. I'm not the hugest, I'll give you the basics, the needs to know in fantasy football. Plus, I'm going to have some fun with the team names. That's always the most important thing for me, in my opinion. But I want to start off with something that's going on in baseball. There was a couple incidents, and is it even safe right now to go to a ballpark? I think is a fair question. And it's just like anything else where, with the COVID and people not coming back to work, there's a lot of security issues that I don't know if it's come to the forefront. And there's a story out of Chicago that is absolutely bananas, where a lady may have hid a gun in her belly fat. But I mean, it's a conspiracy straight out of the Kennedy assassination. This is like, there's all sorts of different, I don't know if MLB is trying to keep this story quiet, or if, people, this interested the snot out of me. If this doesn't interest you, then maybe this just isn't the podcast for you, because I found this fascinating, that there is a incident, of course, coming out of Chicago, of all places, where there was a shooting inside the baseball stadium that seems to be being covered up, and then there's rumors that it was, again, someone snuck a gun in. Other people are saying somehow it came all the way from the outside of the stadium. It's just like, again, Kennedy level, like
back and to the left.
How did a bullet sneak in? Did it sneak in that way? Did it sneak in through a woman's fat ass? It's a whole thing. So let me just start off with this, because again, I think we have the illusion when we go to a place where there's, $1 billion being pumped into it. For each one of these teams are worth multiple billions, and these guys get paid millions, and you're in this nice stadium. I think there's always this illusion that, you should be safe, or that, they're pumping money into the security. This is something we should feel okay, even though we're in a big, like if there's any situation where I'm in a big group, it should be all right. Well, I mean, it may not be safe for the, the fans. It may not be safe for the players. Something happened out of Atlanta. History almost wasn't made because of some psychos. So let's just get this whole puppy here, getting into it. So again, the old story goes, or the old quote goes, when the myth becomes the fact, print the myth. Or when the legend becomes the fact, print the legend. It's like from Valance, some movie Valance, whatever, Who Shot Liberty Valance, something like that. But it's a great quote. And so I really want to believe the first part of this conspiracy theory, that again, this shooting is somewhere out of, like, this is Kennedy level conspiracy. But I really want to believe that the way this gun was brought into the stadium, as reported, was that a woman snuck it in through the folds in her belly fat. That's how she got it past the metal detectors. This lady was so fat that she snuck in a gun in the folds in her belly like a giant blob Jabba the Hutt Shar-Pei dog mix. That is just, my God.
Baby back ribs.
But I guess she's had plenty of baby back ribs. So yeah, let me get into it. It's like I said, when the legend becomes myth, print the legend. I can get into a whole thing about that, but let me start off. So this was last Friday, and I don't mean to make light of this, but I mean, everyone's okay. So just so you know, before I kind of have fun with this story, everyone, from what I understand, is going to recover. The two victims of the shooting should be fine. But yes, on Friday at Chicago White Sox Stadium against the Oakland A's, there was a shooting in the actual crowd where one woman was shot in the stomach and another one was shot in, like, the leg. I mean,
You shot me! You shot me right in the arm!
But here's the interesting part. And the first level of this conspiracy was, how did the gun get into the stadium? According to Peggy Kaczynski, a radio host on ESPN and a Chicago-based radio station, she reported right after the shooting happened that it was, quote, an accidental discharge, and she also reported that the fan, quote, snuck in the gun past the metal detectors, hiding it in the folds of her belly fat. As police said, the 42-year-old that was the first one that she alleged snuck it in was shot in the abdomen, and that there was another 26-year-old woman, or the shot in the abdomen. The 42-year-old one was shot in the leg. But either way, they say that they're going to make a full recovery here. And they did release the security footage, and so I can show you just a little bit of that. We don't see the shooting itself. They didn't release that part, but you do see the crowd coming in. And like I said, if you look, and I'll pause it for a second, I want to be careful. I'm just saying this is the crowd of where supposedly it happened, and I don't know who's the victim and who's not. But we're a big country, man. I'll just leave it at that. If you look at the video for a second, there's a lot of bigger people nowadays, aren't there?
Telling me to lose weight.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a hot case, he said.
But as you watch the footage, this is what right after it happened, you see people, waving to security and trying to bring them in and do all that. And so I mean, apparently everyone's okay. I mean, obviously that's got to be frightening as hell. You're just watching the White Sox and A's, and why you went to that game is, I don't know, maybe you got family out there on the field or whatever. But I mean, that's the footage there. So the first part of this story, which again would be, this is like the biggest White Sox scandal since the Shoeless Joe Jackson of 1919. But the idea that she was able to sneak past metal detectors, which I didn't really know was a thing, and I'll explain more possibly how that happened, of how just putting guns under your belly fat would be enough to, skew the metal detector. But again, that's only the first level of this conspiracy theory, because the stadium and the owner are now claiming that the shot came from outside the stadium.
Back and to the left.
So that's the second part of this. This is the second shooter, the grassy knoll, so to speak, or the fatty holes. Anyways. So a White Sox source is saying that the gunfire came from the outside, and another expert disagrees. So like we said, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives has actually been, on this case because we really don't know what's happened yet. We're still trying to figure it out, trying to help the White Sox. And there's still a lot of questions. Where did the bullet come from? Where's the gun? We never retrieved the gun, apparently, from the situation. This is really weird. And it just happened last week. And I don't really understand no one's talking about this. But CBS 2 political investigator Dana Kozlov pushed for answers just this last Wednesday, and one White Sox source said they, quote, feel very strongly that the gun was not in the ballpark when it went off.
Back and to the left.
And it's coming from outside is something that we've almost completely dispelled, is what the police are saying. The police are saying, at least one of the main captains, an interim Fred Waller here, said that it was coming from, outside is completely nonsense. But White Sox sources says all the evidence indicates that the two bullets did, in fact, come from outside of the ballpark. And the sources say that when they traced the two victims, the one we showed you here in the security footage, that no alarms were triggered through the metal detectors, and that they also traced everyone that sat around them, and they didn't set off any alarms either. So they keep trying to ask the question, how did the gun get in if, the metal detectors didn't go off? So the security machines were working properly according to all of them, and they're saying that it had to come from outside. Basically, I honestly, and again, when the myth becomes the fact, print the legend or whatever. But I want to believe, because I think it's funnier that a lady was just so obese that she was able to sneak a gun inside the folds of her belly fat, again, like a Shar-Pei dog or something. But I really, the more I'm reading, the more I hear about it, the ones that are trying to do this weird Kennedy-like, oh, it came from the outside and arched down and did all this, are either White Sox sources, White Sox staff, and the owner, which I'll get into in here, who all have a legality and a public image issue to go like, well, it couldn't possibly have been as simple as some lady was just so huge that she was able to sneak the gun in between her fat ass folds. It's actually that it came from the outside, because that's the only way the gun could have got in. We have metal detectors, So, but again, the people that are experts in this and the people that seem to know or have other sources that aren't related to the White Sox organization are all calling bullshit on this, including Timothy Hicks, a firearm expert, and he does not agree at all with the White Sox source, saying that it's more likely it came from inside to the park as opposed to the outside, and that their contention is poorly supported by physics, and that, quote, by the time it would have made that arc and then come down into the stands, I don't think there would be enough energy left to do that level of injury to the person. Now, the lawyer of one of the victims is saying that they deny any allegations that they even brought a gun in. So again, there's all these moving parts, and it's been like a week. 2 people got shot in a stadium, and we don't have any answers yet, including now owner Jerry Reinsdorf, who never really has a media session. This is what makes me smell a little bit of the cover-up nonsense on him. He came out and said, quote, that there's still an investigation, but he doesn't see any way in the world that shots could have come from inside the ballpark. And of course, if you're the owner of the franchise, you're just going to be, I don't even know. How could possibly the metal detectors not be 100% accurate? It had to have been this weird arching bullet that came from the lobby tower, the library tower, or whatever it was. I mean, it just couldn't be that people have gotten obese enough and our metal detectors are crappy enough and our staff is undermanned enough to where it's just as simple as some lady was able to hide it inside the middle of her big fat belly, and that's, well, didn't see or didn't think about it, that the gun went off and then people got hurt, and now we're being held accountable, and we don't really want that to happen. I am obviously leaning biased towards that part of the conspiracy, but it makes a lot more sense to me than this weird arching bullet. And apparently, ballistics experts and others are also saying that's absolute nonsense. It's fascinating to me. I'm sorry, I'm fascinated by this story. As the bigger overlying issue here too is whether you agree, and we'll find out more story when it actually gets released. But I mean, the bigger issue, and I think something that's worthy of discussion here too, besides the funniness I find in the middle of this, is that honestly, be careful. Like, be careful going to ballparks right now. It's not what you think. It's not as nearly as safe. It's like everything else going on in the world right now. There's just not enough people to fill in the jobs that are necessary in order to make sure you are honestly as safe and secure as you should be at, any of these major stadiums. The fact is, like everyone else, these employers, after COVID and people got to stay home and they found ways to get their money, just don't want to come back to work. This is not, an issue just solely put onto the, security staff of any major venue. This is something that everyone's been going through. But, I mean, they're no different. They're definitely right along with the dominoes falling here of that effect, as there was just a survey done recently that I found talking about this, and it was the National Center for Spectator Sports Safety and Security. They surveyed 40 venue security directors, including NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, MLS, NHL, about the state of the venue securities at their facilities. And in this public survey, they even openly said that right now, 95% said that because of staffing shortages and fan behavior and security wait times, they represent a challenge to their security function, and that the common causes for the staff shortages that are now here, to where they just don't have enough, people to actually monitor properly the stadium and run all the equipment, was of course due to COVID, but also employee absenteeism and lack of qualified applicants. Again, people just don't want to come back to work, and I don't blame them, to be honest. I mean, that's a crappy, thankless job, if you ask me. And so it says after 95% from all the major sports said that nearly all venues are experiencing shortages, and that they have had to institute employee incentives, higher hourly wages, complimentary food and discounted ticket prices just to even get the short staff that they have to work and come back to work every day in the stadium. So it's a mess right now. And, the other challenge they say that they're facing is the fact that we're just getting dumber and more violent, which is, going all the way back to Idiocracy.
Go away, Baton!
What shouldn't have been a prophecy. It should have been a comedy movie. But the, movie Idiocracy, how we just breed dumber, and they outweigh the smart people. And the next thing you know, you got a bunch of ding-dongs bringing in guns in their belly fat and shooting people on accident inside the White Sox stadium, to where then people that are in charge have to go, no, it couldn't have been that. It had to be a magic bullet coming and doing a tornado-like turn and whatever nonsense they came up with here. It's just, they said that in just the last 10 years, that an increase in spectator behavior and poor spectator behavior is also a huge security issue now in all of the major sports. To the point of that they said a quarter of them said it was much worse in just the last 10 years, and 40% at least ranked it as worse in the last 10 years. So they've tried turning to technology. They've tried doing other things. You're going to see more of this. This is another thing that just frightens me to no end, is the involvement of robots and AI. And you're going to see that. This was, I believe, Atlanta Falcons Stadium released this footage the other day. If you've seen Black Mirror like I have, and I love that show. If you haven't seen Black Mirror, shame on you. It's one of the greatest Netflix series you'll ever see. It's just so, again, prophetic, and it was meant to be prophetic. They try to basically, the whole show is these dystopian worlds where it's 20 years in the future and they try to predict technology. And a lot of it does revolve around, there's one, it's black and white, and it's set off in these killer machine dog-looking thing is chasing this poor lady, and it's just a ruthless, relentless Terminator, a la Arnold, but I'm a little dog. I'm like a little Chihuahua dog, and I'm going to murder you just the same because I'm Terminator. Anyways, it's actually, this is because of a security staff shortage and everything else going on. They are turning now to animatronic robot machine security things. Maybe it can be good. I feel like Will Smith and iRobot, this stuff frightens the snot out of me. Look at this here. This is the new security dog that's going to make its way, I believe, through Falcons Stadium. That's straight out of the show. I mean, look at instead of having, because we can't get enough people to show up anymore, we're going to have these little, What happens when the Siri Alexis lady hits the switch to say, sick that on the rest of the world? Now, that's just a camera, I think, and that's all it's supposed to be doing, but give us 5 years. Give us 10 years. We'll put guns on that sumbitch. You know what I mean? We'll figure it out. The whole world is becoming more and more dependent on technology and everything else. So, yes, while it's funny to me that a lady possibly was able to get past these metal detectors, which, by the way, I did need to mention, there was somewhere in there, they did say that there is a high probability that metal detectors, based on the sensitivity settings and also the person running it, user error, there are major reasons that could have possibly happened, which does seem more probable than the other way that they think the bullet came in, that it's at least probable and more probable that there was just an understaffed or maybe unqualified person running the metal detector that wasn't really paying attention, along with the wait times, people trying to get in, they're bitching, they want to go sit down, you got these long lines, the guy's not really focused that much, maybe the sensitivity setting on the metal detector wasn't where it's supposed to be, to where it couldn't penetrate the 400 pounds of flesh that some lady was able to waddle her way in with, and that was maybe the cause of why the gun got there. But I mean, overall, you're seeing us turn to robots. You got reports. This is a public survey from people that run the venue saying, dude, we're undermanned, we're understaffed, the ones we have kind of suck at their job, fan behavior is getting worse, there's more to monitor. So you put that all together, man, it's I would just say, don't not go to games. Obviously it's nice to go back to games, but watch your back. You know what I mean? Pay attention. This is not, we're everyone's struggling, man. Everyone's going through, every employer is going through the issues of trying to not just have enough staff, but have staff that they feel is qualified for the position. Security at the baseball stadiums, basketball games, football games, all that is no different. So make sure, buddy up, pay attention, keep your eyes forward, maybe, feel up any heavyweight people you find walking around there. Make sure they don't got a 45 underneath their second fold there, which, again, you can get mad about those jokes, but, I mean, give me a break. If you're at that level to where you can hide handguns in between the folds, cry me a river.
Cry me a river, you fat baby. You disgust
That goes
me.
way past any level of just basic genetics or whatever you want to start bitching about. So that was the first security thing that happened, and it's not the last. So we saw fans getting shot and security people coming out and saying, yeah, it's a big issue. It's not just in the stands, it's now on the field. So in case you missed it, and I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in baseball I can discuss, but Ronald Acuna Jr. has become a new big story, as he had this amazing day the other day that almost didn't happen based on this bad security stuff that I'm talking about. So in case you missed it, this was just yesterday. By the time you see this a couple days ago, Ronald Acuna Jr. had gotten married that morning, and then with his wife and kids in the stands, made all-time history as part of the Atlanta Braves series versus the Dodgers, a big series that really has playoff implications. They're only separated by 4 games here. So in a big game on the biggest day of his life, with his family watching, Ronald Acuna Jr. had one of the moments of all moments when he's the first person ever to join the 30-60 club, meaning that he joined the only person ever, not Ricky Henderson, not Eric Davis, Barry Bonds, name your guy. None of them were able to do what Ronald Acuna Jr. did, which was have 30 home runs and 60 stolen bases in the same season. First ever to do it, and he did it with a month left to go. So this was his awesome moment, in case you missed it, against the Dodgers.
Ronald hammers this to left center. That ball is history. And Ronald Acuna Jr. just made history. He has Major League Baseball's first ever 30-60 season, and he does it in grand fashion.
And it did it with the wife and kids watching in the stands, just
and
married
Atlanta
her.
Has a 5-1 lead. And oh, by the way, it's only August 31st.
Yeah. And so that is amazing, by the way. That, I mean, again, he still has a month ahead of him as he finished the night 3 for 4, 2 singles on his 62nd stolen base as well. But now Acuna has now 150 home runs for his career, second player in history to do that. The other guy was named Mike Trout. Again, he was the first 30-60 of all time. Ricky Henderson came close a couple times, was never able to get it done. Others included Eric Davis and Barry Bonds, got kind of close to it. Bonds, by the way, when he had the 33 homers and 52 steals in 1990, that was the first of his 7 MVPs, so this really vaults Acuna into especially the National League MVP conversation. And it's a fascinating story, and all that's great, but the more underlining and prevailing thing to me that was interesting is that this bullet, just like in White Sox Stadium, was only dodged because of the luck of the draw, as far as, dude, this could have never happened. And I'm not even being dramatic. So, there's the shooting in the stands, but there's also with Acuna, this was just a few days before he had this historic day he'll remember the rest of his life. The first player to make history at 30-60. We got married that day, wife and kids in the crowd, in an all-time important regular season game. All this great moments almost did not happen because a few days before that, you had some a-holes in the outfield. And I'm going to make that a whole new Disney movie, which is going to be a lot more, R-rated. But because of some a-holes in the outfield, they not only rushed him, they knocked him down. Thank God nothing happened. But this was just a few days before this. This is what I'm saying. This is how bad security has gotten. In case you forgot or didn't see this, this was, again, just a little blip. And I wonder if Major League Baseball is trying to, hide this a little bit in case you missed this part. So this was a few days before making history. Some asswipe fans, and thank God nothing really was supposed to happen. They just wanted a selfie, apparently, trying to get a picture. But see, that dude actually knocks him down. And that second guy, he was clearly like my dog has done the same thing when he's too excited to see me, run up and jump me. But, this is luck of the draw that nothing was more detrimental to what happened to Acuna, who never would have been then available 3 days later to make the history that he made. What if he got really hurt here? Now, everything turned out all right as this psycho gets dragged off, literally carried. Look at this absolute nut job here, being carried off into the stands. He's clearly not in his right mind. And everyone kind of laughed it off and said it's harmless fun, right? Nothing was a big deal. You're wrong. actually a lot of bad things can happen. And maybe it's because I'm old. I remember this stuff. But I mean, just to give you, I got 2 words for why that is a lot scarier than you think it is. Monica Seles. Does anyone remember from the early 90s Monica Seles? Because I do. I'm an old man. I remember this stuff. So Monica Seles, in case you didn't remember, back in the early 90s was the top tennis player, and she also got rushed by some psychotic fan. Now, he didn't just want a selfie. He wanted a piece of her flesh. He stabbed her literally in the back, not like your best friend sleeping with your boyfriend. She got stabbed in the back by a fan during, it was either Wimbledon or the U.S. Open, and I'll show you at first the raw footage. I remember my mom talking about this and seeing it. A lot of people saw this live. This was 92 or 93. Oh, let me switch. This is the second video I want to show you. I want to show you the raw footage first. So people are just watching this tennis event. And here we go. Monica Seles, again, top player in the world, just enjoying her tennis match, having a, Coke and a smile, taking a break. And you're not going to get to see it, but listen. Wait. Got stabbed right there. And this nut job gets carried off, stabbed her almost stabbed her in the spinal cord. And so he stabs her. He barely misses. They said missed her spinal cord by a couple inches, could have paralyzed the poor girl. And she was never really the same. Monica Seles had to take years off and was never really recovered from this. And this is from like a documentary or something, shows more of the, explains it a little better, but...
It's easy to embrace hopelessness when things seem insurmountable.
The 5-inch blade narrowly missed Selish's spinal cord. It was a sickening and unprovoked attack.
She gets stabbed in her office. Can you imagine being in your office and someone just opening the door, coming up behind you, sticking a knife in your shoulder? That's exactly what happened.
Monica Seles. She takes the stadium court for the first time since 1992.
It's actually just a matter of time until all of the elements come together for things to be all right. I believe that, most difficult situations will resolve themselves if you are persistent.
Yeah, she comes back.
If you don't give up entirely.
I'm sitting here, all smiles with you, but it was not easy.
Yeah, she didn't really recover from this. Like, she still had a career, but she was never the same player that she was, and of course had traumatized. You people talk about PTSD all the time now. I hear it about everyone. You had a bad, you get smacked, rear-ended a red light, you think your life's over. This poor girl got stabbed in the back because security wasn't on their job, and some, absolute psycho went actually psycho, shower scene and hit her in the back with it. So when I see Ronald Acuna Jr. just 2 or 3 days before he had the greatest day of his life, really, have a risky thing happen here to where he got attacked basically by fans. I mean, now that you've seen Seles, if you rewatch that again, oh, come on, video, work with me. Work with me, video. There we go. Yeah, I mean, if you look at this again, just because he didn't get stabbed doesn't mean that he couldn't have. And I'm not trying to be, Fox News scare tactics on you. I'm just saying, especially this nut right here, knocked him down. Braves, Acuna, everyone else, history could have not have been made because people weren't doing their job, or maybe they just don't have enough to do their job, as we found out thanks to the Chicago Bellyfat Gate shooting out there in their stadium and the surveys and everything being released. We don't know what could have happened here. So, like everything else, post-COVID and in the world we're living in, just watch your back, be careful, man. Security is kind of what it is. I don't think you need to go vigilante or Batman or anything, go crazy, but I do think you need to pay attention to what's going on out there. So anyways, there we go. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. That's reality. Let's get into some fantasy. Fantasy is always fun. Fantasy football is basically, if you haven't done your team yet, you really need to. It's about time to get that going. Football season starting officially next week. And I think like a lot of people, I didn't think it used to be that great, and now I get very excited to be on a fantasy football team. I enjoy it. I love it.
I'm so excited!
I do. It's fun.
I'm so excited! I'm so...
Yeah. It makes watching the other games more fun. It keeps you more invested. NFL players need to quit their bitching, because the reason I'll watch like the Browns versus the Dolphins or whatever, a game I wouldn't care about, is because I might have fans. So it helps ratings. It helps attention. It's a moneymaker, obviously, so there's a lot of different things. But if you're one of the first ones, or this is maybe one of your first years, I can help you with just some basics. I'm not going to give you a ton here because I'm not one of the, major. I played fantasy now for a few years. I've gotten the hang of the basic rules, and there are some basic things that you need to know. And to me, the most important thing is the last rule I'm going to give you. So just so you know, basic fantasy rules if you're going to do your draft for the first time this year. Here's a couple things that you should know and that you should pay attention to. First of all, first rule for me, do not listen to anyone who says you can't draft a quarterback early, first or second round. My only thing and my caveat with that is if you're going to draft a quarterback early, do it and get your guy and knock it out. Or either, because if you're not going to do that, just don't even worry about drafting the quarterback at all. And I'm not even being, it really is that much of a chasm to me between like the top 5 elite quarterbacks and then everybody else. There's going to be plenty of quarterbacks left way at the end, or you could even pick up, after the draft is done, honestly. There's going to be rookies, guys like Russell Wilson might fall because of last year. If you're not going to get a top 3 or 4 quarterback, wait, obviously for a very long time. I would argue all the way towards the very bottom of the draft. And then if you're not going to, though, do it and do it quick. Don't let these people, gas you up about, oh, you put a second-round pick on a quarterback. That's bananas. No, it's not. Not if it's like a Patrick Mahomes or a Jalen Hurts, maybe even a T-Law. Again, second, third, guys like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. If you're going to do it early. If you're not going to do it early, don't even worry about it and focus on other positions. That would be the first little tip I would give you there. Second tip is the same thing with tight ends. Tight ends in the NFL, it's beyond, in my opinion, the biggest drop. But after Kelsey and Andrews, it's a drop. Even like the Wallers and, Hawkinson, I know, got a big contract, but that's still unproven, man. And if you're in a league where you have to play a tight end, not all, every league is structured differently, but if you have a tight end league and it's a requirement, get a tight end and get him, maybe Kelsey first round. If you're 5th or 6th and Kelsey's there, you might want to snag him. Andrew second. I would not dick around with getting a quality tight end because it becomes a giant pain in the ass when you have all these great running backs and wide receivers and everybody else and you don't have a decent tight end. You end up losing by 8 to 9 points. It'll drive you bananas. Don't do that. Some steals, I would say, in my opinion, if Garrett Wilson, as far as the top rounds, if Garrett Wilson drops to the second, I would take him without even blinking. I think him and A-Rod are going to have a big year out there in New York. Madison is, in a lot of the mocks I've been watching and stuff, is dropping to maybe the 4th round. There's no real running back of note behind him in Minnesota. So even though he's not really that great, I would say that's worth, paying a little attention to. Amari Cooper with Deshaun, hopefully having a resurgent year out there in Cleveland, should be something to keep an eye on. Mr. Cooper, 5th or 6th round. Guys like Jonathan Taylor are very interesting because I don't think he's going to hold out the whole year. And so if he's fallen to 5th or 6th, this is once upon a time a top running back. Yes, you might whiff on that completely. He might sit out all season, but the upside of him possibly, if he's still sticking around, if you don't have any Indy fans in your league and Jonathan's down there and you're like, well, I don't know if he's going to play. Dude, if it's 5th or 6th round, I'm telling you right now, go with those types, take those types of risks. Don't freak out about the early first few weeks of the season. It's going to be the end of the season that counts. And so there you go. Guys also like OBJ, veterans trying to get, it's another one. If he falls very late, I'd say keep an eye on him. But to me, the biggest rule, and this is the one, in my opinion, you got to nail no matter what. If you're a first-timer, a lot of it's luck, and every year a lot of it's luck. You got to nail the name.
All right, you got me. That's an awesome nickname.
To me, that's more important than everything. I know a lot of people say, like I said, there's bigger rules that are more important. Drafting a quarterback early, to me, is a big one because if you don't, you get stuck with the ding-dongs of the world. This is a quick little fantasy video I thought was funny, saying if you draft in the 7th round, your quarterback, Kirk Cousins.
You're gonna live with me now. I'm gonna take care of you.
That's cute. But yeah, so to me, if you nail the nickname, you at least will enjoy the first part of your season.
All right, you got me. That's an awesome nickname.
Your team name. Your team name is Bull Durham. You want to announce your presence with authority. And every year, there's the classics and then there is the new ones that come out here. So I thought I'd have a little fun with this. This is always one of my favorite parts of fantasy football season is getting the team name proper. So let me give you some of my honorable mentions and my top, the top 3 The top new 3 ones I found this year that I think are the top names to have for your fantasy football team. All right, first off, let me kick off with this one. This is my bronze medalist this year, and I think this one's pretty good. What'll you doing, Step Bro? What'll you doing, Step Bro's a good one. I have no idea where that comes from, or a whole subsection of videos on the internet that might be completely based around poor people being stuck in washing machines or people falling on top of each other in an accident. What are you doing, Step Bro? I have no clue. I've heard that's funny. Some other ones, like I said, honorable mentions in the bronze medal category for me were things like Big Dak Energy after Dak Prescott. There's a lot of things you can do with TDs to sound like something else. I love big TDs, going to the TD bar, show me your TDs. Like, there's a lot of those classics you could do there. You could bring up veterans and do things like Breeze Nuts. I've always thought Breeze Nuts is a pretty clever one. Najee by Nature is something I'm an old rap head. Naughty by Nature. A lot of y'all probably don't know who that is, and shame on you. One of the greatest, most underrated rap groups of all time, in my opinion. And then, of course, if you got Adam Thielen, you can play a lot with that. There's Hooked on a Thielen, Thielen Up Your Girl. There's a lot of fun ones you could have there. So that's my bronze medal round. Again, Big Dak Energy, I love big TDs, or going to the TD bar, Breeze Nuts, Najee by Nature, or Hooked on a Thielen, Thielen Up Your Girl, and then my new favorite in third place, What'll You Doing, Step Bro. I think that's just... I know. Well, don't stop. Moving on. In second place for new fantasy football names. This one, I'm going to keep the crickets going here because this one, make sure you're not in your work league with this name. I guess it might be a little soon, but made me chuckle. Second place for me in fantasy football names, and again, make sure you're not in a work league for this one. What's under my towel? What's under my towel? And picture of Deshaun. Oh wait, that's Bill Cosby's head on his. I don't know why that's there. I'm sorry, that's funny. That's got some humor to it. There's other things you can do with the Deshaun Watson name, of course, if you want to maybe go a different route. There's also like What's in Your Wallet. That's cute. That's safe. That's a clever one. There's also another one that's more in the Deshaun Don't Touch down there. Again, I'm just gonna keep. Some other ones in second place for me, honorable mentions included Brock's Purdy Mouth, Etienne Ass, or Etienne Ass, in case, depending on how you pronounce it. Jamar Alago, Jamar Chase, Jamar Alago, I thought was pretty cute. Also in Cincy, Burrow It Deep in Me. Burrow It Deep in Me, Step Bro. What are you doing? Moving on. And this one, oh boy, another one that might be way too soon. Henry Ruggs Formula Team 1. Jesus. Ugh. Yeah, I'm just reading the paper, man. I didn't even come up with that name. But to me, in case some of these are a little too soon, too much, I always say go with the classics. This has always been my favorite and still my favorite in first place in case you need a good name for your fantasy team. If you have one of these two players, it works. If you have both, even better. 2 girls, 1 cup. 2 girls, 1 cup. And that's always been a good one, an easy one, fan favorite, as, famously from the internet video portrayed in this Picasso-like painting where the 2 girls eat some chocolate ice cream, in case y'all have never perused that dark, dark part of the internet. That was like the first viral dark internet. Like that was, those 2 girls really got into that ice cream, man. Really got into it. Other honorable mentions for your best fantasy football names include Christian Mingo, after Bartavius Mingo. I think that one's funny. You could do, of course, She Digs My Big Hawk. Yeah, Hawkinson Diggs. The Pittsburgh Feelers has always been a fan favorite of mine. That's just kind of like, that's simple, but I just enjoy it. The Pittsburgh Feelers is cute.
All right, you got me. That's an awesome nickname.
You could do Will Fork on First Date, Elway's Teeth, JJ Twat, my Balzac Ertz, Suck a Ditka, Suck Mike Ditka. There's a lot of things you can play with there, or just go with the classic. 2 girls, 1 cup. You know, what'll you do in step bro, or what's under my towel. There you go. There you go. Those are some good fantasy football nicknames for you there. Take and do with them what you will. Announce your presence with authority in your new fantasy league. All right, looking at the time, I got to do this, and I want to get out of here. I'm going to have some fun. This is now time for the video section, and this is always something I enjoy doing. So let's just go ahead and do it.
You seen it?
Video time.
You seen it? Don't look at me. Don't look at me, little puppet.
Have you seen this? Have you read about this?
I have one, man. I'll show you here in a little bit, but let me start off with just some quick ones. I always love watching little kids whack themselves or hurt themselves playing baseball. I'm a sick individual, and this stuff amuses me. So some kid was trying to video himself of doing trick baseball hits and just didn't go well. Got this one to kick things off.
Baseball trick shots. Wait.
Oh! Right in the kisser there. That's quite the trick to hit the ball and give yourself a grade 3 concussion.
Baseball trick shots. Wait.
Oh! Oh! I mean, the contact, he hit the sweet spot of the bat there, man. That just doink.
Baseball trick shots. Wait.
Oh. 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 So that's fun. This might be his older brother in another little ding-dong video here. You know the guys, and you can't help it. This was, especially when the Affliction and Ed Hardy t-shirts were abundant, and you would go to a bar and watch a UFC fight. There was always going to be some ding-dong who had to do the punching machine to, find out how hard you punch. It had like the pounds per square inch thing that would read, and every meathead that's not getting laid in the bar would be like, duh, look how hard I punch. I punch good. I punch things strong. 850 points. I punch strong. Da, da. And then it always escalates, and then you get drunk people that do stuff like this. This guy found a way to get a new high score. I'm gonna do. I mean, it looks like he got a pretty good score. He clearly effed himself up there, but it looks like he made good, solid contact there. I don't know if he's like a soccer player on PCP or something, but white people.
It's all right, because it's all white.
White people. What else do I have here that's always cute or fun? Oh, I was talking about technology. I showed you like the robot dogs. Video games continue to get more evolved and get better and better with each year. The new NBA 2K is coming out here soon. Basketball season getting a little bit around the corner, so there's already been the pre-orders and stuff for NBA 2K24, which has always been a lot of fun, very realistic. And man, they're getting more and more real each year as the new teaser trailer came out the other day. Let me know what you think about this. I mean, look at the graphics. This is just Jordan Poole, now Washington Wizard. I mean, just, it seems like him and Draymond still haven't gotten over their issues. And, oh, no. Not the Batista bomb. Not the Batista bomb. And he's down. Outstanding shooting star press to go with it, with the follow through. You got to love it there. You got to love it. I'm a wrestling fan, so if that's in the new game, then I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it.
It's still real to me, damn it.
That's real to me. What else do I got here? Let me see. Do I need to finish with this one and just call it a day? I think I'm going to. This is the last big one I want to bring you. And let me preface this. People don't really seem to get each era is different. Each decade is different. I'm starting to have now seen a few decades, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s to now. I mean, dude, there's a lot that has changed in perception and just the way we talk, the way we act, what's cool, what's not cool anymore. I mean, you're seeing it now. It kind of seems to be coming at a quicker and quicker curve. What you can say now, you can't say now, you could have said 5 years ago, vice versa. So, you know, when you have older people that say some stuff that maybe you don't either agree with, understand, you really need to at least be empathetic to just, dude, it was a different time. And I'm not saying that they're right. I'm not even saying you're right. I don't know. Usually it's somewhere in the middle. But my long point about this is, dude, you know, your grandpas and your great-grandpas and grandmas and all that, they just lived in a different era. I'm going to now show you, this is from, I believe, either the 80s, and this was a repeat from an interview that Sean Connery, you know, Sean Connery, everyone loves Sean Connery. Oh, money pussy and all that. You know, the former James Bond, Con Air, you know, this legendary actor that had this long-standing career, never got canceled, never got in big trouble, and it's only because of the era that he lived in, because Sean Connery was out of his rabbit-ass mind. In case you wonder why your grandpas and your grandmas say stuff that you just don't even think is humanly possible to think or even speak on, this interview where Sean Connery talks about golfing with girls should give you everything you need to know about, dude, in a different time, people thought differently. They were maybe a little bit, you know, rougher and tougher and just didn't really seem to give too many Fs. Sean Connery, from a previous interview with Barbara Walters on a big television show, had no problem saying any of the things following about golfing with women or what you can do if they run their mouth too much. This is crazy.
Of golf as well. I'm not mad. I don't like playing golf with women, no matter how good they are. I really don't.
Your wife plays golf.
She's a very good golfer, yeah.
You don't like to play with her?
With her, no.
Why not?
Because I don't like playing golf with women.
Why not?
I like the company of men better at golf.
Why?
It's very difficult to explain. It's just it's more pleasurable playing golf with men than women.
Years ago, you did an interview, which may come back to haunt you. What, you know what I'm going to say, right?
No.
Okay. You did an interview in which you said...
Here we go.
The worst thing to slap a woman now and then. As I remember, you said you don't do it with a clenched fist. It's better to do it with an open hand. Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I didn't love that.
I haven't changed my opinion.
You haven't?
No. Not at all.
You think it's good to slap a woman?
No, I don't think it's good. I
think it's bad?
I don't think it's that bad. I think that it depends entirely on the circumstances and if it merits it. Yeah.
What would merit it?
Well, if you have tried everything else, and women are pretty good at this, they can't leave it alone. Yeah? They want to have the last word, and you give them the last word, but they're not happy with the last word. They want to say it again, and get into a really provocative situation. Then I think it's absolutely right.
To give her a good slap?
Yeah, absolutely.
What if she gives you a good slap back?
Different times, man. I know to a 20-year-old that has to sound bananas, and I'm not agreeing with what he's saying, but just this is something I saw. It started off with, like, Sean Connery talks about, you know, he hates golfing with women. I'm like, oh, that's sports related. Let me check that out. But then I forgot that he had mentioned that before. And so he didn't just not apologize. He didn't tweet publicly or do anything. He doubled down years later on one of the most bananas, and it's not funny that but it's funny that he just, with no F's given, with Barbara Walters right in front of him, is it okay to slap a woman? Well, you know, they just can't let it go, man. I mean, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but if they get the last word and then they talk again, it's good to give them an old ratty-tat-tat just to keep them in line. He says it with zero. Like I said, man, he's obviously got his issues, but this was clearly not something where a publicist didn't stop him mid-sentence or anything else. He's just like, yeah, you know, sometimes you got to give them a rap on the beaver in case they keep running their mouth too much and they got to go make me a sandwich. You know, the only reason they don't need shoes, they don't need, you know, walking barefoot from the kitchen to the bedroom. I mean, what? You know, sometimes they run their mouth too much. You got to give them the old ratatouille. That's just how, different time, man. A different time.
Is this real life?
Not anymore, but it was then. This is the end of the show, though, and I'm going to miss you, and we'll talk next week. And I love you.